So what is deed theft, and can you actually steal a house? Well, here's what happens in a lot of areas. There's a process where fraudsters and scammers can review real estate records and forge a deed transfer and end up owning a property for free. In this case, there was a group of people who stole a bunch of homes worth $1 million. How does this work? Well, if you are a scammer, you can access property records through a public records research. So all real estate records are considered public documents. Since title records are public, you can see everything about that title or that deed ownership, the name of the owner, their address, if there's any mortgages, if they have an absentee ownership, meaning that if the mailing address for their tax bill is different than their property address, that can be found in the land records. Well, how does that help you? Well, if you can find a property where the ownership owns it for cash and there's no mortgage, and the address on their tax bill is different than the property address, then you can assume that it's an absentee owner where they live somewhere else and they have no mortgage. So what you do is you create a property deed. Now, one thing that people don't realize about property deeds is they're created from blank sheets of paper. They're not like an official document or a certificate. It's a deed that's typed up on somebody's computer. And it's signed by the owner, filed with the county, and now the property's transferred. So what these scammers will do is they will look up the owner, Joe Schmo, and they will create a deed transferring the property from Joe Schmo to some fake company. And they will forge a signature for Joe Schmo. And they have what the signature looks like because when the person bought the property, there's a signature on that deed where they signed for it. So they can fake the signature, get two witnesses that are just made up people, and now they file that deed. Well, one thing about property deeds is the county recorder, the clerk, is not able to verify signatures. They're not the police, they're not the court, they're not a forensics analyst, they're just a clerk, and they just, if a deed's presented and it looks like it makes sense, they file it. Now the deed's filed, now it shows that this property was transferred from Joe Schmo to XYZ Investments. And now the scammers will put that property for sale. And they'll put it on Zillow, they'll put it on Redfin, or they'll get a mortgage on it because now it's free and clear. And they'll take the cash or the lien or they'll sell it and they'll run away with the money. Now this property owner starts getting notices, hey, your property was sold, there's a lien on it, you owe payments, and they don't know anything about it. So they run a title search and find out that there was a deed theft on their property. Now, many times it can be undone, but sometimes it can't. What if it was sold to an innocent third party that just paid good money for it, not knowing it was a scam, right? Those are the kind of scenarios that result from deed fraud. So this can be a real problem. If you're the property owner and you discover your property's been sold or has a mortgage on it, you have to go through a lot of steps to undo it, and it may require getting the courts involved, getting a lawyer, spending a lot of money, and the people who took the money, they're long gone, right? They usually use fake IDs and fake account numbers to get this money out, and you're probably not going to find them. So how can you prevent this? Well, one thing you can do is you can file a notice of intent on your deed. You can check with an attorney or check with the legalities of your county. You can file a notice of freeze on your deed so that if anybody sees that, they know that they're looking for a release of that before they transfer the property. But it's not uncommon. Usually it's on houses that have no mortgages and a house that has an absentee owner. And if you're an investor or a purchaser of property, make sure that you perform due diligence on the seller, that you have good IDs, don't rely on copies, and you have an escrow company that knows what they're doing. This particular alleged scheme used disbarred attorneys that were getting fake social security numbers and fake driver's licenses. So deed fraud is not gone. It's still running. It's still out there. And it's something that you want to be aware of so you don't get caught up in losing money in a scam.